Did you know there are more than 2 million engineers in the United States? I thought that was a big number, 2 million. And there's over 700,000 technicians, engineering technicians, both very large numbers. And that is why I was so excited to talk with my guest today. My guest is Rick Ellis. He is the Director of Audience Management at CFE Media. And he's going to tell us how we can create marketing messages that speak to these engineers, what channels to be on, what we can do to create that great cohesive marketing message that gets them to respond. And that's when you start to build that relationship that instills trust. But before we get started, my name is Donna Peterson. I go all over the world to speak with CEOs, business owners, marketing directors, talking to them about their businesses, about marketing, and what tips they can give us so that we can implement them and grow our businesses today. So let's jump in. Hi, Rick. How are you?
I'm doing great, Donna. How are you?
Good. I can't believe we are finally getting the opportunity to talk. I've wanted to do this for, since May. I've wanted to sit down and talk with you.
3 months in the making. I'm glad to be here with you. I've been looking forward to it as well. I'm glad we finally got to it. And yeah, I'm going to try my best to be worth it.
Wow. This is putting a lot of pressure on me to ask the right questions to make it worth it for you. But we'll jump in there, because the reason why I wanted to talk to you so badly is because you understand engineers and the importance of communicating to engineers in the right way. And that's why I've got to speak to Rick. He's the one who can shed light on that.
Well, they're an interesting group, and I definitely have my observations. We're still learning, right, as well. I think a lot of our audience, the most responsive parts, sometimes the people that give us the clues are the older group. So we've got a big initiative to the younger engineers. These are the guys that won't fill out that form, that won't just jump through your hoops for you, that are harder to get to, right? And I think they still, definitely me, but and we've spent a lot of time thinking about this. We think they're still the same people. They're just maybe a little more skeptical, or they're still engineers, fear of failure, cut to the chase with them. Don't get cutesy, all those things. Like if you send hey, it's Halloween, let's have a fun moment. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Just send them a thing that says it's motors and drives. You look at it or not, you know what I mean? And
I heard the best saying the other day. They're like, keep it real, keep it focused, and avoid the fluff.
Be careful with humor, because it could just flop. It could absolutely flop. They're just not known for their sense of humor. Our one of our owners is a mechanical engineer, and he's got the best sense of humor of any engineer I've ever met. And I'm just like, no, you're really an anomaly. So anyway, yeah.
But it's that importance of knowing that audience and how they take information, or what type of information they want, right, that helps you create the marketing messages they'll respond to.
100%. Details. They want details, right? They will go read that spec page. They want the nuts and bolts of it, and they want you to cut to the chase. Just like anybody, but I think even more so, you've got a sentence or two in that email or in that communication. And if you miss it, it's on to the next thing. They'll give you another try, probably, unless you were really stupid about it. But they'll give you another try. But you're not going to get that one done. They're not going to bite, and they're moving on, and they deleted you, and there you go. So, yeah.
So you definitely got to give them the information the way they want it. So as the industry just keeps evolving, and CFE has quite a few magazines, you have control engineering, you've got plant engineering, you've got oil and gas engineering. How are you able to keep your content so fresh, as you would say, or, information that these engineers want to receive?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to do the work. Somebody said that to me just seconds ago. You got to do the work. And that is really where I think it comes in. We have a lot of different tactics that we use to determine how we're going to do the content. The first is probably an obvious one, but every year we send out a very big survey to our audience and say, tell us what you want us to talk about. And we give them some guidelines. We also give them, like, here's what we usually talk about. What do you like? What do you not like? What types of formatting do you want this information in? What's new? We use, like, what's groundbreaking or what's not being covered? What's an emerging technology that you want to know about? And so we ask all those questions every year, and we've done it forever. And so we always do that. Each brand does its own survey. It's a big deal. We used to use it to kind of plan our editorial calendar, if you will. But now it's our mission statement, basically, is these types. All right, this is new, AI, a bunch of things are coming up there's new technology, EV stuff, and there's a lot of things going on. And we literally pull them. And then we actually, at the end of it, we say, hey, would you be willing to talk to one of our content managers? We'll give you we'll buy some coffee, we'll give you a $25 gift card, talk to one of our content managers. So we set up appointments with these folks afterwards to even a little deeper with them. So as much of that as we can possibly do, we do. And, myself and our director of user experience, Nicole, earlier in the year, we were looking deeply into newsletters, the formatting of information, and also we have designs on a website redesign. So she and I made 20 Zoom appointments with engineers, and we paid them. Again, you got to pay them. We paid them. We got all different age groups. Paid them $50 to come talk to us for an hour, and it worked great. We got loads of notes and things like that that'll help us. But back to the content side, the other thing is we've recently invested in our personnel and in training as well. Yeah. So we've added a few new hires. These folks are kind of digital natives, if you will, as well, to kind of get that kind of keep reinforcing the web first and that edgy stuff. And by that, I just mean more current. Our magazines are important, still one of our favorite things, but it's the website, it's our ebooks and all the other things that we're doing. So, we've done a lot of that, and in training with these folks too, where since we've got some new folks in, we've got a spectrum of people that have been doing it for a long time, and now this newer group. And so we're having almost monthly meetings with this content team. And
that is wonderful. And in doing that, not only are you getting great, valuable content that people actually want to read and listen to, but these people are feeling valued. These engineers are saying, oh my goodness, they are really concerned about our needs. You're probably going to keep those subscribers forever.
Yeah, 100%. And to some extent, like we had one where it was the same guy that Nicole and I spoke to filled out the survey and ended up wanting to talk to the content manager as well. So that was, just another example of that connection. So that guy ended up talking to us about two different things. He's good, and he's also in the younger side of things. So he's a real good point of reference for us as we kind of delve into that young engineers thing. But one of the things I'm probably most excited about is we're starting to, I think this is a challenge for a lot of B2B companies right now. We're starting to work with the audience analytics team, my team, and the content team, and try to bring them closer together. And that's, in my mind, we've got to figure a lot of it out. But that's more than just saying, hey, this had a lot of page views, so do more like that. It's not. It's more about like, well, what's your target audience? Let's deep dive into these analytics. Do you have a target subscriber in mind when you were writing this content?
Yes.
And it's been exciting. It's been exciting. We're making a big push into that in this year, and we're looking at least. We don't know for sure because we were just talking about it. Honestly, earlier this week, we're going to have a meeting in September where it's the audience, the content, and also the technology team, right? Our guys that are doing the stuff on the website.
All together. Yep.
We're going to get them all together in Chicago. And so we're excited about that. So I think that's another thing that will help us help these folks that know Google Analytics, but they're not deep diving in. Help these folks interpret that analytics. Help them look at things of like, it's always to focus in the moment. But like, how did that work a year ago? What's that last issue of that newsletter do? So it's been.
You jumped ahead to a question I was going to ask you later on, but I was talking about, first we always heard about opens and clicks, but now people know you need to evaluate more than just those numbers. There is the branding aspect, but I strongly believe marketing is more about building relationships, sort of like what you're doing. When you ask those subscribers, what do you want to hear about in this coming year? Oh my goodness, you care. You're starting to form a really deep relationship with these people. And now
Yeah.
when you're bringing all those departments together, you're going to get a better overview of really how are things doing.
100%. And, we talk a lot amongst the audience team about, some of the trends in relationship building and the marketing trends that are out there. And a lot of them we think apply, but we also have to put that little engineer asterisk next to it. I'm like, maybe they're not that touchy feely.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like what would work for some people and seems to be a trend, emotive words or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, let's test that because I'm not so sure with these guys.
Yeah. But if you show that you care about giving them the quality content that they need, right there, that's going to get an engineer, because it's what we said in the beginning. The engineer wants the facts. They want to see case studies of what actually worked, what is really going to help them be more proficient or efficient in their facilities.
Absolutely. We've got different flavors of engineers as well. We talk about target subscribers. Sometimes it's harder than others. But we've got the plant manager that cares about safety and his people and uptime, and then we've got the control engineer that cares throughput and speed and quality, and it's a great gig to be a part of. I like to say I'm a few credits short of my engineering degree, but I've learned a lot about engineers. So yeah.
It is crazy the things I've learned over the years, because being in B2B, I'm in different industries all the time. And I just sit there going, I really shouldn't know this much about CNC machines or an HPLC machine. I graduated with an economics degree and I'm working in marketing and I know about these pieces of equipment. I don't know.
It's great. It just comes from being immersed in the data, and you just pick it up and you look at things over time as well. And I think if you got to care about it too. And I think, it sounds like we're in that same mindset of I really care about what my audience likes and doesn't like. And I really care. And I know our content managers do as well. We watch that stuff. It's getting more closer than ever watching that stuff. All of the analytics that are available. Again, you almost wade through them and try to figure out what is the ones that are most meaningful. I mean, obviously clicks and conversions, you can't get away from that. You can now throw out opens because it's ridiculous. But we're still looking, they're still somewhere in the background, but you got to throw them out. So it now becomes that audience engagement. And we've really connected a lot of the dots with our CDP into Google Analytics to help that as well, facilitate those types of things. How much is coming from email traffic, things along those lines. And we've enabled some things that's going to allow us to get even deeper into, well, what kind of people like what? So that all sounds good, but how do you make that actionable, right? How do you then say, all right, this article was tops, or this article wasn't so great, but guess what? It was your target guy that really, like, those are the people that really did read that. Or mystery of an article written 10 years ago that is still the top article, it's evergreen content, why they still find that. So anyway,
but that goes back to what you're saying, not only do you know your audience, but you've got to understand your audience. You've got to understand what they respond to. And it sounds like you have different segments that would respond to different pieces of material, of course, at different stages in their buying journey. And so that becomes that whole intricate chart of, okay, what do we give them here? Do I give them there? Do I go here? And that's what makes marketing so interesting, because it's a puzzle. And like I'll say to people, you'll have the puzzle, it'll be all done, but then it falls on the floor.
Exactly. And again, there's surprises in there as well, right? Something that takes off, or something, or there's a topic, I'm not even going to bring it up because it still puzzles me, that is just not as it's not been as embraced by our audience as I think it should be. And I'm like, why? And I'm like, it's on my list to try to understand that, because it's a cool topic and it's a relevant topic. So why is it not resonating? What am I missing? I'm missing something. I need to talk to some people, the people that are ignoring it, and say, why are you ignoring this? It very much so.
We could mention 2 letters that play right into that, AI.
100%. And that's one. Actually, AI, everybody's going crazy for. So that's not the actual topic, but it's a high tech topic. I'm like, why are more people into? And then we've got another topic that it just blew the doors off of something that we'll kind of get into probably in a little bit. And that it was not necessarily a shock, but it made us really pay attention and say, okay, double down on it. So.
Well, one of the ways I feel that building relationships is definitely through education. And I noticed that CFE, you have that marketing for engineers where
Yeah.
you do several events. I think
Yeah.
there's ebooks in there. It just looks like it is a great resource for engineers to get some really good, almost not hands-on, but you know what I mean, in person, plus other information. So tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, Donna, it's actually a little bit off. The marketing for engineers is actually or marketing to engineers, M2E, marketing to
Two.
engineers. Yeah, so all of that content is actually designed to help our customers, not necessarily the engineers, but to help our paying customers understand how to market to engineers, because there's such a weird,
Okay.
love my engineers. They're such an interesting group. I don't want to say weird in a bad way, although they might agree with it, right? They're very, you get to market to these folks in a specific way, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And so the resources you mentioned, we consider ourselves I say it a little bit humbly, but the world's foremost expert on engineers. You know, this is what we say. And we demonstrate it with books and content. And we have an in-person event that just went phenomenally. We brought in about 250 of our customers. So we're talking agencies, we're talking big companies that you would have heard of that are marketing to our audience. We bring them in for a day of education. We do research ahead of it that is specifically focused on engineers. That's another survey we do. Again, you always got to be talking to your audience, but we do another survey to our engineers, asking them questions about marketing, email placement, what drives them crazy, what they do, what they don't like. So that's that marketing to engineers brand. And we love it. It's been great. Even for, like me, I market to engineers. So every time we have this conference or every time we put out this content, I'm reading it too, because I want to make sure I'm up on the most current stuff as well.
Well,
So
marketing changes so quickly. Every day there's something new.
yeah,
So you
yeah,
have to be up on it.
yeah, for sure. And so so that marketing to engineers brand. But you mentioned education, and I'm going to go back to that for a minute, because one of the things that we're really we do a nice job with. Again, I don't want to be overly complimentary to myself, but we have one of the things we do is webinars. We have a lot of webinars, and we're accredited, so we're able to give CEU credits for many of our web.
Great. Yeah.
And so that is really something that is great. And engineers are almost always, many of them are needing to keep their accreditation up, to keep their certifications going. So that's really worked out for us. We do a great business in webinars, and I think we call them webcasts, but I think they're hugely popular with our brands. And we find that some topics explode, and other topics are really just rock stars. And then there's other topics that are like, yeah, that's going to be some effort over there. And so,
Yeah, but still, you're offering those topics, which gives your brands more validity that your content is correct.
Yeah.
And up and current with what's going on, because you wouldn't be able to offer these webinars if it wasn't.
Absolutely. And we've got some great content partners and really smart people, our content team, of course, but we've brought in some great folks over the years. And it's one of those things that it just works for everybody. It can be a sponsorship opportunity, but we do them even unsponsored because our engineers like them so much. And it's also a great source of new engineers for me as well.
Well, that's also going to help you out. I'm just thinking off the top of my head right now, when people are talking about AI and publishers and anyone who's writing content, do we use AI? Do we not use AI? But you're going to have these webinars showing that you have that content, sort of like this podcast. This is live, this is not AI generated. This is humans. But you are the same thing with your webinar, which again is only going to help reinforce the CFE brand as being genuine content.
100%. And our engineers don't know CFE media for the most part, right? They know our brands, our individual brands. It's how we want it. We're fine with that. They're going to know control engineering. They say you send them something from CFE media. They're like, what or who? And it's fine. Our brands, and that's why that marketing to engineers thing is a potent initiative for us, because it does say, hey, we do have all these brands, and for the folks that care about it, that aren't perhaps an engineer, but are a marketing professional trying to reach an engineering audience, trying to understand engineers, especially a newer marketer coming in, that's something where we can really help and embrace. And we've got a lot of content in that regard for them as well. So we're really serving both of our audiences there. We're helping our customers, our paying customers, get better at marketing to engineers.
Yeah.
And then we're also, those engineers are able, they're able to benefit from that as well, from that other marketing. So
That's great. I didn't understand it properly, when I had first seen it on your website, but now as you're saying it, it really is just a wonderful thing you offer. Because when I talk about media buying or marketing channels to people, I'll always say, go to trade shows, speak to industry publishers, really get to know an industry, get to understand what are their pain points, what are they talking about. Like when I go to trade shows, I love to eavesdrop on other people's conversation because they might be talking about supply chain issues or, whatever it might be. But I feel like I get the pulse on the industry, and for you to be offering that marketing to engineers,
yeah.
You're saving that, having to shop around for a trade show, having to eavesdrop on somebody.
Exactly.
I haven't been arrested yet. I want you to know. So I am okay.
That's good to know. But be careful. There's still time. Yeah. I definitely have those. I love it's been a while since I've gone to a trade show. It hasn't worked out this year. So it was last year when I went. But I agree with you. I love being around these engineers. I love pretending like I'm as smart as them to engage them in a conversation and ask questions about things like you would expect. So how do you keep track of all those newsletters? How do you what do you pick in your inbox? How do you things like this? And even talk to them about the technology and things like that, and they'll go right over your head in a heartbeat. But you just feel like you get some of it. Some of it gets caught in that net of understanding, And so, yeah, I'm with you.
Especially if you're looking at large pieces of equipment, there is no better way to understand a piece of equipment until you see it in action, like a CNC. So I was up at East Tech, which is an SME show up in Springfield, and they've got building after building of these different pieces of equipment, which for me really help out a great deal when I'm helping clients market such large pieces of equipment. You understand the logistic issues. How far can the piece of equipment go if it's going to different countries, the power issues,
Right.
And it all goes back to, if you want to have valuable marketing, you've got to know your audience, but you've got to understand them. And it seems, CFE is doing a great job with that.
It's definitely it's always going to be a work in progress, right?
Yes.
We're never.
Well, it's constantly changing.
Yeah, it's constantly changing. Technology, it's amazing. Again, we've got an engineer that is one of the owners of the company, and so that helps. He helps reinforce that as well. And that's the surveys every year, and it's more than every year. But we've got one big survey that we do every year. All year long, we're asking our engineers things and doing that follow up. And you've got to do that to be in touch with them. And to your point, to understand that audience. And I won't forget, I was in a show years ago, and it was so impressive. It was a furniture show in North Carolina. I'm going back a little ways. And there was a machine. I'll never forget it. You walk up to this machine and it takes in a long metal rod and it quickly bends it into the shape of a chair that then you can upholster things onto. So impressive to watch. I was just I sat there for a while watching it, and I'm with you on these CNC machines, these laser stuff. I'll sit there and watch it. And that's when you're overhearing those conversations probably of the people around you when you watch these things. So.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I just love going to the trade shows and just hearing more about the industry, what works, what doesn't work, what's top of mind. And every industry, I always find it fascinating. I always come across another company. I'm like, really? That's a company? And, I always come across things like, wow, there's just so many different things people can be doing out there that you just always have to be made aware of it.
Absolutely. I learned about when we were getting into the oil and gas market, our oil and gas engineering brand. We also have a cybersecurity brand too, a little plug for that as well. But anyway, the oil and gas industry, I learned so much about that industry, and it was really, it gets a bad rap sometimes, but I'll tell you what, the technology, the engineering that has gone into it is amazing. And you talk about a group of people that are patriotic and care about their jobs. I learned a lot on that one, and also I took a tour of a facility, and there are people that they could lose their life today if they do something. You know, and again, it's also, I learned so much with that. And so, yeah, you got to try whenever you can to be in your audience's footsteps whenever you can.
Yeah. So now when you were talking about the survey, and I know I'm just going back quickly because the wheels start spinning up here and I can't help them sometimes. With the survey, how are you finding the response rate? Are a lot of the engineers willing to help you with those surveys, fill it out? Do you get a good response when you do that?
Yeah, we get hundreds of responses for sure. And then
Excellent.
like, I mean, we'll get 400 or 500 responses to that survey per brand for sure. And then we'll have another 100 people say that they want to talk to us. So
Excellent.
it's really been great. And again, I think they know that it's going to help them as well. But we get very good response to it. So
And it
yeah,
must be because also if they have helped you, they saw that you did implement it, not that hey, that was a waste of my time. They didn't even do any of the information I wanted. So
Yeah.
apparently, you're actually putting it into play and using the information you gather.
100%. Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, it just came out. We're all talking, like the research director is finalizing the results and they're coming out, and it's an email conversation. We're all talking about this week. Like it's just come out. So we're all like, oh, let's look at this stuff. And I like to dive deep into it. I'm trying to get myself on one of those calls. It will happen because I want to be there as well, even if I'm just like taking notes and talking.
Yeah.
So, or taking notes and maybe asking the occasional question. So
yeah, it's always good. It's always good. So now with your engineers, do you see one channel being more popular than another with them? Or is it really still a good multi-channel? Or is it a frequency? Like maybe it's emails and it's just a frequency with them.
that's a great and kind of hard question. I mean, we see.
Well, it
email-
probably is different depending on each one of your publications too.
Yes, for sure. I mean, I'll tell you, my plant engineers are not, they're the least engaged, if you will, of our audience email wise. Makes perfect sense. This is not a desk bound audience, right? These guys are the ones that are running. They may not even have a desk. They may have a locker room, right? Where they're coming in, checking in, they're doing their stuff for that day and everything else. What we found is once they get to the website, they're some of the most engaged. They stay the longest and they're poking around the most, which was so interesting. And you love hearing something like that, right? So I was very excited by that. So, I mean, email is still a big channel for us and will always be. It's a great one. We don't get a lot of good feedback on social media, which I think is part engineering. And I think, I always use the same joke that we've got some big LinkedIn group, and I had some success posting some polls on there and getting some interaction, but it's usually engineers talking to other engineers.
Yeah.
And I always made the joke that if I put a picture of a robot dinosaur eating a pumpkin, I'm going to get a lot of engagement. But if I write, hey, here's an article on the new optical sensor, and I post a cool article, and it's even a really good article, you get crickets, and so it's a struggle for us.
I'm laughing because I always say to, if I would just carry a kitten on my podcast, I would get a lot more people.
That's right. That's right.
But of course, then it's not the right audience. Then I'm getting people who like kittens. I'm not getting people who really want to know about quality B2B marketing. So
it's true. It's true. And you don't want that shell game, right? You don't want that shell game. And so, yeah, it's fun. But yeah, so one of our own content is good as well. So email for sure. One of the things that we have a good pass along rate with some of our offers as well. Ebooks are very popular for us as well, and the webcasts. I mean, again, probably 15 to 20% of all our webinar registrants are new to us, and then we send them on a nice little welcome series and introduce them to the brand and everything else. And so that's been really a good one for us.
And so that welcome series is all on your Omita platform, correct?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We do a lot with that platform, and there's more we're going to do. I know we'll probably talk about it here in a few. There's more we're going to do there. And one of the challenges that we've had, and I think we're, especially in the last few years, I think we're making some ground on, is really getting the full power of our CDP to bear on things, because running I came from the old circulation thing, right? Years ago, where it was all about the magazine and only the magazine. And that's so far in my rearview mirror, it's ridiculous. Forget it. I love our magazine, and our engineers love the magazine, but that's great. But let's talk about what we can do with the data that we're collecting, and with on-site types of things, and with multi-channel all of that multi-channel operations and lead gen and all of that stuff. And we're really,
You're
and we're
creating that experience that's creating the deeper relationship.
100%. And
Yeah.
you want to walk that line, and I think you want to push that line a little bit with on-site stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you want to be careful, but it also works, right? With like
Yeah.
pop-ups and things along those lines, and personalization. We're going to do more with that in the next year for sure. On-site personalization. The stuff we've done has been very limited. Like to you, hey Donna, we see that you, like whatever. Or what like we want to get to that point as well. And I think it's we do some basic stuff with it, but that's another area that I want to really get into and really flex the muscles. Years ago, we didn't have a CDP to run. Part of what we've had to do is learn how to staff and run a customer data platform. So that's been part of it. And the Omita folks have been a big help as well. So
that's what I'm working. I have worked with one publisher in a very specific niche area. And we're trying to work on that with the Omita platform, having some more progressive profiling so that we can learn more about these people, so that obviously the content can be directed specifically to them and their needs, creating more webinars, just to have that good all around experience that builds a relationship, so that you don't end up subscribers, you lost them, subscribe. You want to hold the number. And you know how it was years ago in publishing. I think everyone really just cared about the number. What is your circulation? And it wasn't about quality. And what I was so impressed about when I went to the Omita conference in May and met you finally was the talk about engagement.
Right.
That years ago wasn't really talked about. Of course, probably we couldn't monitor it as well as we can today, obviously. But I just love seeing good quality publishers talking about engagement, so that if anyone out there who's listening, when you're going to find a source to use for your own marketing, you obviously want to go to sources where they're engaged. The information's not just being scraped or harvested and thrown together, and you don't know for a fact, is Donna Peterson in the oil and gas industry? Is she interested in this product? You only get that when you go to industry specific publishers like yourself.
Yeah. And, I used to joke that this magazine, if you're not in the industry, you don't want to read it. It's going to bore you. So yeah, when you renew, that is a huge sign that, yep, we're doing it right. And you like this stuff, and you don't want this magazine unless you are going to read that content and you care about HMIs or whatever you care. So,
but as an advertiser, that gets you excited, because now if these people renew, oh my goodness, they're definitely going to be interested in what I have to offer, because it's spot on with what they're doing.
100%. And, monitoring the engagement is just gotten more and more in these last few years, right? And that's it should be a part of every good marketing, audience marketing in general. That should always be a part of what it should be a core metric for you of watching those numbers and keeping the database clean as well. Sweep people off, give them a re-engagement series and say bye. I guess we work for you, and that
goes back to the old, not quantity, it's quality. So yes, we're going to have to say goodbye to some of those subscribers, but they're not really interested in what you have anyway. So get rid of them. Your advertisers will be happier because they're going to get a better response with all their marketing.
Yeah.
And you're not wasting your time as a publisher chasing after these people that are basically dead wood. They're not interested.
And one of the things we're looking at, and we've been looking at, and we continue to look at, and it's a little bit of a riddle for me, and we don't have there's no quick, easy answer to it, but how many projects does an engineer work on in a year? 2 to 3 as a general rule based on our own research. So, they come in, they find us, they're looking for something, they find us, they sign up, they're getting stuff. Then that project completes, and we got to capture them there before they fall off and maybe they don't need us, or until that next project comes around that they're going to need us for. How do we keep that engagement at least at a level where we're sending them things that worst entertain and inform them, or maybe the other way around, inform and then, but keep that, because we know that these folks are working in cycles, they're information gathering, and then they're putting together the statement of work or whatever they need to, the design specs, whatever. And that's one of the things we get, because just because like this guy is super engaged right now, great, he was engaged. Now he's he's not as engaged all of a sudden, but he was super engaged before. Why? And how much do you chase that, right? So
Yeah.
because we're going to be putting out the content we have. He's going to come back to us, or maybe he's done with us, and so
Right.
we watch that type of stuff a lot. And again, paying attention to that and to what works and to those surveys, I feel like we've got a very strong, it's hopefully a very strong bond with our audience and stuff, providing them things they need. So.
Well, obviously, and that's how come you keep growing with the different offerings that you have for, all these different industries. You've probably already touched on it, but what do you see as being the next thing for CFE in regards to, do you have any new marketing channels coming up? Are you putting together different packages? Is it a combination of everything you're doing already?
Yeah. I mean, we're really working on some relationship things. I've got a few things that I can't talk about, but one of the things that
Top secret. It's top secret information.
This space.
You can tell it to me.
I'm afraid I can't. But
you would have to kill me.
I'd have to fly to Connecticut, make you sign an NDA. And nobody wants that. Actually, I haven't been to Connecticut in a while. But anyway, one of the things we've done recently is some content hubs, if you will, where it's a website that we are providing. We're hosting a lot of content on a particular source of data and information, and we're doing a couple of beta tests with that with some of our favorite customers. And those things, in addition to multi-channel stuff, more interconnected things, more, frankly, more marketing automations as well, right? Where maybe it's got an on-screen component that is triggered. And then, one of the things we also want to do more with, and it's a goal of mine, is to really try to investigate paid social and paid, even though I just said that about the social, I see it working in other areas. And I don't know to what extent that it would work with our audience. I had a run-in that didn't go great a year ago. I was like, okay, well, that didn't go great. Let's come back and you can spend money real quick. And so I'm like, all right, let's revisit that in a while. And so we're going to be circling back to that as well. Audience extension. Our audience is a very powerful audience. If we can help extend them and lookalikes and things like that, that's very intriguing to me as well. So yeah, I mean, I think it's more of the omni-channel things and more interconnected. Our own very cool offerings right now. One of the things that we've done, and again, I don't know that this is super groundbreaking, but it's really helped a couple of our customers for sure, where we go and we interview like their engineers, and we do either a video or we do a research, we do a project for them, and then we do a webcast on that information, and then we follow it up with maybe a packaged up ebook that's content driven or a white paper that we create for them, custom publishing. So there's things along those lines as well, and that's a bigger campaign, right? That's not just a web ad or whatever.
No.
But things along those lines, those interconnected campaigns really show some strength.
And that's the sort of information that those companies can take and they can use forever. They go anywhere. I find that a podcast or a webinar, you get a real feeling for a company. You get a feeling for the individual. So anyone listening to you and I, they would probably say, yeah, okay, we're a little bit of a jokester. You're going to come to Connecticut, knock me off.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, we're still marketers. We can be fun, right? I mean, we're allowed, so yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? You get that feeling for the individual that you don't get in other types of marketing. And that's why it is great that you're offering such a nice multi-channel. Because I also find, I know what you're saying about social, and we've also seen that in being on the B2B expensive equipment. Not much happens purchase-wise, but are you keeping your brand top of mind with social? Yeah, you are, so as long as you can get that in front of the right audience, like you said, with lookalikes, or you do an audience reach campaign so that you're using your first party data and then matching people to it, then you're putting your message right in front of the right people, because we're always looking at trying to find new subscribers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, the paid social is, that's I think it's a skill set. It's a practice. We're going to grow in that area, but I think the people that do it well, that I give them a lot of credit, because it's not just, put that up and see. There's a lot of, you got to be optimizing. You got to be doing stuff. It's not just put up what you think is a really good asset and pay for it. No, I can tell you that unless you got something amazing, HMIs for dummies or something like it. It's not going to work. It's just not
I
gonna
don't
work.
think, I don't think it'll work, because any of that where you just pop it up there and leave it. No, it all has to be augmented together. And then you have the people saying, oh yeah, my son's in high school. He'll handle the social media for us. I'm like, people, there's more to social media than just creating this and throwing it up there, or taking a video of yourself in your bedroom and throwing it up.
Yeah. You're so right. And that's, again, it's becoming, or I don't even know if becoming, I think it's probably always been a science, and that's
Yes.
exciting. And I look forward to playing around with it and having some successes there. But, we're going to continue just creating our great content. We've already put our stuff on social to a degree, but it's partly the industry. And like you mentioned, who's going to buy a giant piece of equipment, buy now, and click, and nobody's going to do that, or ERP
You don't think
system.
people are going to buy a big CNC piece of equipment off a social post?
No, I don't. I really don't. And I'm not even sure about an ERP software either. So, it's probably not happening. But branding, there's probably something to be said for that branding, right? And I think what you said earlier as well about like reminding them that you're out there as well. Maybe there's something to do with folks that have lost engagement. Maybe there's something you can do there.
Yeah.
Well,
People aren't going to buy from you if they don't know you.
Yeah,
That comes down to it. They've got to be able to see. And nowadays, when people can market something at the drop of a hat, you could, come out tomorrow with a new company. You could get an email list for pennies, a garbage list, and blast it out there. It just really helps if you're on multiple channels, reinforcing that brand over and over. It gives you validity. It starts to form the relationship like we talked. But then you also instill trust, like what you're doing with, your marketing to engineers, and with the survey, you're building such trust with these people. They're going to remain using your sources or subscribing to your magazine forever.
Yeah, we certainly hope so. And, engineers are constantly looking for information. And so we feel good about that. There's a lot of good, there are areas that weren't there before. So we're making sure we're in those places. We were just talking about YouTube the other day, and how-tos are a big deal.
Yes.
And, so we want to exploit some of that as well. And people love to watch machines work, CNC machines, right? They're cool to watch, and it'll get your attention. And then what's the follow-up message? So yeah, agreed.
It's very good. All right. Well, Rick, I want to thank you so much for your time today. I found this to be very informative, and I'm sure our listeners will also.
Donna, it's been a pleasure. So I'm really glad. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening to the B2B Marketing Excellence Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button below so you don't miss our next episode. And in the meantime, if you'd like to talk to me, please feel free to send me an email to dpeterson@worldinnovators.com. Till next time, have a great day.